Hello, I am Ashish from Group 4. Today I will tell you a story about a professor and his students. So let's see what happens. When the class starts, the professor takes a jar and fill it with golf balls. And the professor asked the students, "Is the jar full?" And the students said, "Yes, it's full." So the professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. The pebbles rolled and filled the areas of the golf balls. And the professor again asked, "Is the jar full?" The students said yes. So the professor smiled and the professor picked up the box of sand and poured into the jar. And the sand filled up all the gap between the pebbles. And now the professor again asked, "Is the jar full?" And the students laughed and said, "Yes, the jar is full now." But the professor again smiled and professor took out the bottle of chocolate milk from under the table and poured it into the jar, and all the space was filled by the chocolate milk. The students started laughing, and then the professor said, "This is your life. The golf balls are the important things, like your family and children's, your health and your friends. And the pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your home, your car, etc. And the sand is the other things, that small stuff that matter." Now everybody seen the video. What was it about? It was about pedagogy. It is the science of teaching or art of teaching. So see, the professor taught the students in a very good way. How? Because he brought a jar, put all the material and explained him about life. And if he came in the class without anything and tell this is life and that is life, so no student will get what is this. So this is the science of explaining others and understanding to him. So pedagogy is main thing of understanding and explaining. And the example we can take is of teacher and student, or a patient or doctor. So if a doctor can explain what the disease patient has, the patient will take the probable way of getting good. But if the doctor can't explain the patient what is happened to him, so the patient could do anything and get more ill. So now to get further information about the pedagogy, Geeta will explain you the categories of pedagogy.
Myself, Geeta Biswas from Group 4. Thank you, Ashish, for your information. Now, I will tell you about 4 categories of pedagogy. The first one is personality development. The second one is upbringing. The third one is education, and the fourth one is instructions. These 4 categories are connected with each other to form a healthy lifestyle of a people. So, how it will happen? Now, I will tell you. When you born, your parents give you good ethics and morals and allow you to study in good colleges and schools. So from when you educate from that college, you become educated and you have a good status in society. So if you are not educated, then you will get a status in a society, but not as high as the educated people. So if we are well educated, then we have a good personality and we will behave good in between the people. So the people will try to become like us, and then they will come to us and ask us for us what is the secret behind our success. So then we give them instructions. So now you have understand that how these 4 categories are connected with each other. First we get education, then we adapt and personality, and then we give instruction to the peoples about this, and then we get a high status in a society. Now the main point is, what about the defected peoples who can't listen, who can hear? So you think that they don't study? No, it is wrong. They study, but in different way. These people also like to learn like normal peoples and they learn. And but the question is how. Now I will tell you about the deaf children, how they are studied. Do you know that language can be learned through eye and hand rather than ear and mouth? Yes, these children learn through this. Such children can learn sign languages as you can see in the picture. If deaf children are born to deaf parents, then they are very likely to expose to natural sign language such as ASL. What does it mean? ASL means American Sign Language. So, these children learn ASL as their first language. As these children have no access to sound, they can also be taught by lip reading. Now I will tell you about the blind children. As we know, it is difficult for them to see. So, the first school in the world was established in 1785 in Britain. It was named as National Institute for Blind Youth. Such children are taught by speech and general behavior. Braille is a code, a system of dots that represent letters of alphabets in such a way that children can learn easily. So in this picture you can see that Braille it is a dot system. I hope so you understood. But for better clarity, Snehashish will explain you further.
Hello, I am Snehashish Karmakar, Group 4, Subgroup 1. In human society, to be specific, in world of modern ages, we need to be very ready for every circumstances. In order to achieve that, we must know everything or should have an adaptability to any situation. And how can we achieve that? It's a very big question. Previously, the schools taught a lot of subjects. Then there were vocational and avocational courses. But nowadays, there are schools which teaches the students a lot of things apart from studies, which varies from sports, music, dance, drama, etc. Now, this brings us to the previous question. Now, schools, tutorials, and coaching centers, institutions do a wonderful job in upbringing of a person. It focuses on each and every individual student, reflecting the commitment of the school to the students and their respective parents. And how is it achieved? Well, very simply put, with the help of highly talented teachers. A teacher has a very great role to play in the field of education, or rather in the field of pedagogy. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guru Nama. It means Guru is eternity, Guru is Brahma, Guru is Vishnu, Guru is Maheshwar, the three main gods of Hindu mythology. In this mantra or in this name, we intend to express what are the effects or uh, what is the status in Indian mythology or Indian culture for a teacher. Well, this mantra or this name is known as Guru Mantra, and in Indian culture, teachers are regarded as gods. Above phrases is an Indian name describing that teacher is God, also parently and respectable. Apart from being a teacher has a unique character or key role to play in the life of a student. He has a greater responsibility than even the parents. It is also said that if in a class a student is bad, then one bad person in a society may be present. But if a teacher is bad, then a generation of students will be bad. Now coming to the topic, which is main categories of pedagogy, my two friends have very wonderfully expressed their opinions on this topic, and I would like to sum up with a little bit of mind maps or cognitive maps. And here you can see the main categories of pedagogy. They primarily focus on personality formation, upbringing, education, instruction. Now, previously, personality formation and upbringing were regarded as the same thing. Now, the main goal of personality formation is goal oriented influence, which in foreign pedagogy are of two types: intentional upbringing and second is functional upbringing. Uh,
The other method of pedagogy, which involves upbringing, focuses mainly on intellectual aspect, moral aspect, labor aspect, aesthetic aspect, and physical aspect. Every aspect have their individual key role to play. For example, intellectual upbringing enhances the mental faculties of an individual in the society. Also, moral aspects gives the moral ethics and code of honor or code of behavior in a well established and educated society. Labor aspect of upbringing ensures a person is not lazy. In other sense, it installs a sense of hard work, and it also says that if if an individual is laborious, he can achieve success in a society. There is aesthetic aspect, there is physical aspect. These both are equally important. This page contains three mind maps. The first mind map discusses about education. Education is a complex process and the result of a lot of human civilization work put together, which usually focuses on the knowledge of human civilization put together in the form of books and study materials, and thereby it also ensures the developing skills for modern day life, technical, non-technical, etc. It is also a form of habit. In order to gain education, we must have a regular healthy habit. The second cognitive map says about pedagogy. Pedagogy is a science which developed during the ages. It developed along with the other scientific subjects, namely philosophy, medicine, physiology, ethics, aesthetics, psychology, political economy, ethics, uh, sociology, history, anatomy, etc. And the third mind map shows the type of pedagogical approaches, which are constructive approach, reflective approach, collaborative approach, integrative approach, inquiry based approach. Now, for constructive approach is an approach in which there are involvements of both the student and the teacher. It enhances on constructive techniques, where a student learns things with the help of teacher and also partly with the help of his own efforts. Then there is reflective approach in which a student or an individual tends to learn from others. They behave like mirror. They see others activities and try to copy or establish their mental faculties so as to they impersonate the skills or the knowledges provided by someone. That is another way of learning. Now there is a third approach which is known as collaborative approach. It usually occurs with the help of institutions and sometimes with other companies, multinational companies. It happens usually in technical sectors where the technical sector or technical company, in order to require employees, they themselves open up institutions where they train their own employees and use it in the sector. Fourth one is integrative approach. In this approach, there are efforts implied both by the schools, coaching centers, institutions, and various sectors, drama institutions, etc., where overall development of an individual is focused. Then there is inquiry-based efforts. Inquiry-based efforts usually conducts with the help of inquiry for a local area or a specific group. For example, in developing countries, in the rural areas, they lack computer education. So there is a survey done for the local people and they are given computer based training. The following mind map shows pedagogical list to do. In other words, the things that are to be done in the field of pedagogy. First is teaching for memory. A student needs to learn and put things or informations into his brain, which will be long lasting and it will be efficient for him to establish himself in the society. Second is reading in class. It is very much useful because in front of teacher reading becomes quite easier, but at his absence the reading might not so be handy, because in the beginning the reading process is quite hard and so is the understanding. But in front of teacher, if a habit is formed, then reading becomes easier and so on. The student begins to learn higher level of books and literature. Third point is more practice. Now this reading, teaching, writing, it all involves practice. Fourth point is better scaffolding and progression. It all involves the above previous previous techniques, which says that a student needs to participate in examinations and express himself. Sometimes verbally he needs to be examined, sometimes in theoretical exams, so as to present that he is developing both physically and mentally, and thereby he can present himself. Fifth is structured speech events. It includes speeches or competitions or extempo competitions or class competitions where a student might be getting a field to speak. Thereby, it encourages his oratability or the ability to speak freely in public. Sixth is better feedback routines, which involves after the participation and the examination, the student needs to realize what he has learned and his marks, his credentials, and credits. He has performed. Seventh is giving with the same information, and the eighth is giving metacognition a will. These all are parts of learning. This is now a technological content knowledge mind map. It shows three vital points: technological knowledge, content knowledge, and pedagogical knowledge. And the overlapping areas forming a common boundary give the formation of technological, pedagogical, content knowledge. Since these uh, three different subjects coming together from this single subject, there are other overlapping areas as well. An overlapping area, for example, between the pink shaded area and the yellow shaded area, that is technological knowledge and pedagogical knowledge, forms a common area which is known as technological pedagogical knowledge. Also, the pink shaded area and blue shaded area gives a common knowledge area which is purplish in color, and the subject is known as technological content knowledge. Then there is the pedagogical knowledge and content knowledge overlapping area, which is pedagogical content knowledge. Next mind map is 10 learning strategies for modern pedagogy. It includes crossover learning, embodied learning, science, context based learning, activities of emotions, adaptive teaching, argumentation, incidental learning, computational learning, stealth assessment. Now, I would like to say a few methods which are Indian of origin. Now, the Indian system of education consisted of Gurukul. In the Gurukul system of education, a saint or a sage was the primary head teacher, followed by junior teachers, and were a lot of students belonging from the royal family, from the warrior caste, from the business class, and they were categorized accordingly. And in the Gurukul system, there were no books involved, there were no classrooms. All the classes were conducted open in the nature, and the students were taught under the leadership of the teacher. They had to spend their early part of life away from their family along with the teacher. They would combine and become a part of the life of teacher, thereby learning everything everything possible in those times from the teacher himself. In the near future, they were supposed to be graduating from the Gurukul system, and some of them would be teachers in the Gurukul itself. Some of them would be a royal prince or a king in the coming future. Some of them will be warriors. Some of them will be businessmen, and so on. And the Indian Gurukul system was an equivalent of pedagogy in those times. That's why I mentioned this topic in our discussion. Indian system of pedagogy, which were used in the ancient Vedic times, are still instilled in our education system so far. They have improvised a little, they have changed in the modern times, but There are parts of the educational system which are still into practice. For example, few regions in India still practice Ayurveda, and they are done in gurukulas, and also few old martial arts and also kushtis and wrestlings are being taught in gurukula system of education. The main objectives of Gurukula system were self-control, development of character, social awareness, integral development of personality, propagation of purity, preservation of knowledge and culture. Now the Gurukula system, above whatever was said before, resembled the same pedagogical system almost equally in the modern times today. Now the advantages of Gurukula system are as follows. As it was the only system of learning known in India at that time, most of the Shishyas who are students in Sanskrit gained their education through this medium. The Shishyas or the students received knowledge in all subjects. They got a practical and in depth look into life, and which helped them focus in their upcoming life, their own society, and thereby creating a civilization. The only disadvantage of Gurukula system of education was the children had to go away from their house at a very early age. That's all. Thank you.